Sign the papers, Kainene. Kainene's hands trembled as she stared at the divorce documents on the table. Her husband, Tobena, stood over her, arms crossed, face carved from stone. Behind him, her best friend Yetunde leaned against the doorframe, one hand resting on her pregnant belly. A belly that should have been impossible, since Yetunde claimed she was infertile. Tobena, please, Kainene whispered, tears streaming down her face. I'm pregnant. Our baby. That baby? Tobena laughed, cold, cruel. I don't want it. Just like I don't want you anymore. You are good for the struggle, Kainen, but now I need a woman who matches my level. Yetunde smiled. Sorry, babe. You're just too local for him now. Kainene looked between them, the husband she'd sacrificed everything for and the best friend she'd shared her last meal with. How could you both sign the papers? Tobena threw a pen at her. Or I'll throw you out, with nothing but the clothes on your back. 10 years later, Tobena would remember that moment. He would remember the broken woman he discarded like trash, but he would meet someone very different. The woman who owned his debts. The woman who held his freedom in her hands. The woman who rebuilt herself into his worst nightmare. Kainene was coming, and she was bringing karma. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, if you've ever been thrown away like you meant nothing, if you've ever wanted to see karma deliver justice so sweet it makes you believe in God again, then hit that subscribe button right now, smash the like and drop a comment telling me, have you ever had someone betray you and later regret it? Because this story is for every person who was underestimated, discarded and left for dead, but refused to stay down. Share this with someone who needs to remember that your comeback can be greater than their betrayal. Now let me tell me how Kainene went from broken to unstoppable. 8 years earlier, Warri was a city of hustlers. If you wanted to survive, you learned to grind harder than your neighbor, and nobody ground harder than Kainene Nwosu. At 28, she was beautiful in the way struggle makes you beautiful. Lean from skipped meals, strong from carrying burdens too heavy for one person. Eyes bright with the kind of hope that refuses to die even when life keeps killing it. She ran a small pepper soup joint called Mama's Pot in the Jagpa area of Warri. Every morning at 4 a.m., she was at the market buying fresh catfish, goat meat, and spices. By 6 a.m., her pots were boiling. By 7 a.m., the first customers arrived, taxi drivers, Okada riders, early morning hustlers who needed hot food and her warm smile. Her husband, Tobena Okafo, was trying to break into the oil servicing business. Trying being the operative word. For 3 years, he'd been chasing contracts, attending networking events, printing business cards that nobody cared about. 3 years of almost and next time, and the deal is coming. They lived in a two-bedroom apartment in Ugbuwange, the kind of place where the ceiling leaked when it rained and the generator was more temperamental than a jilted lover. But Kainene never complained. We're building, baby, she would tell Tobena whenever he came home frustrated. Rome wasn't built in a day. She believed in him. God, how she believed in him. What Kainene didn't know was that Tobena was tired of believing in struggle. He was tired of watching his friends drive new cars while he took buses, tired of seeing classmates post vacation photos on Facebook while he couldn't afford new shoes, tired of having a wife who smelled like pepper soup instead of perfume. He wanted more, and he was about to get it, just not with her. The person who would help him get it sat across from Kain every Sunday afternoon, eating her food, laughing at her jokes, and quietly studying her husband like a lioness studies prey. Yetunde Badmus had been Kainene's best friend since secondary school. They'd shared secrets, clothes, dreams. When Yetunde's parents kicked her out for getting pregnant at 19, Kainene took her in. When Yetunde lost that baby and fell into depression, Kainene sat with her through every dark night. You're the sister I never had, Yetunde would say, hugging Kainene tight. She meant it. Until she didn't. The thing about betrayal is that it rarely announces itself. It creeps in quietly, disguised as friendship, wearing a smile you trust. It started small. Yetunde began dressing differently when she knew Tobena would be home. Tighter jeans, lower necklines, more makeup. She laughed louder at his jokes, touched his arm when she talked to him, stayed later into the evening, claiming she had nowhere else to go. Kainene noticed but dismissed it. Yetunde was her sister. Tobena was her husband. Some things were sacred. She was wrong. One evening, Kainene came home early from the market. She had forgotten her phone and needed to confirm an order. As she climbed the stairs to their apartment, she heard laughter, Tobena's deep rumble and Yetunde's high-pitched giggle. Nothing wrong with that. They were friends too. But when she opened the door, the laughter stopped. They were sitting too close on the couch. Yetunde's hand was on Tobena's thigh. The air felt thick, guilty. "Hey, babe," Tobena said too quickly, standing up. "You're back early." "I forgot my phone." Kainene looked between them. "What's going on?" "Nothing." Yetunde smiled brightly. "Just keeping your husband company. You work so hard, someone has to make sure he's not lonely." Something twisted in Kainene's stomach, but she swallowed it. She was being paranoid. Insecure. She was tired, that's all. "Thanks for keeping him company," she said quietly, grabbing her phone. "I'll be back in an hour." As she walked down the stairs, she didn't hear Yetunde say, "You need to tell her soon." "I'm tired of hiding." She didn't hear Tobena reply, "Soon. I just need to secure this contract first. Then I'll have enough money to leave her properly." 2 weeks later, everything changed. Kainene's father had died 5 years earlier. He'd been an engineer with NNPC, respected, connected, the kind of man whose name opened doors. Before he passed, he'd given Kainene a notebook, names, phone numbers, contacts. "If you or your husband ever need help in business," he'd said, "these are people who owe me favors. Use them wisely." She'd kept that notebook in a drawer, sacred, untouched. But watching Tobena sink deeper into frustration, watching their savings disappear into failed business attempts, she made a decision. She would use her father's connections. For him, for them, for their future. "Baby, I have something for you," she told Tobena one Saturday morning. She placed the notebook in his hands. "These are my father's contacts. Oil company executives, procurement officers, people who can help you get contracts. Call them. Tell them you're engineer and Wosu's son-in-law. They'll listen." Tobena stared at the notebook like it was made of gold. "Kainene, are you sure? We're a team, right?" She kissed his cheek. "Your success is my success." He hugged her tight. "I love you so much. I swear when I make it, I'm going to give you the world." She believed him. 3 months later, Tobena secured his first major contract, a supply deal with an oil servicing company worth 12 million naira. The contact came directly from one of her father's friends. But the contract required upfront capital. They didn't have it. "How much do we need?" Kainene asked. 3 million naira, Tobena said, running his hands through his hair. "I don't know where we'll get it." Kainene did. The next day she went to her mother's house. Her mother had kept one valuable thing from her late husband, a set of gold jewelry passed down through generations. It was meant to be Kainene's inheritance. "Mama, I need to borrow the gold," Kainene said. Her mother's face went pale. "That gold is for your children, Kainene, for emergencies." "This is an emergency, Mama. Tobena has a contract that will change our lives. We just need capital. I'll buy back the gold, I promise. This is our future." Her mother looked at her for a long moment, then slowly retrieved the wooden box from her bedroom. "Your father would want you to be happy. Take it. But Kainene, make sure that man is worth this sacrifice." "He is, Mama. I know he is." Kainene sold the gold for 2.8 million naira. Combined with their savings and a small loan, they had the 3 million. Tobena's business launched. And just like that, everything changed. Within 6 months, the money started rolling in. Tobena moved them to a duplex in the GRA. He bought a Lexus SUV, started wearing Italian shoes and designer watches, ate at the fanciest restaurants in Warri, but he stopped eating Kainene's paper soup. "That food is too local, babe," he'd say, wrinkling his nose. "I'm meeting with executives now. I need to eat at places that match my level. He stopped coming home for dinner, stopped asking about her day, stopped touching her the way he used to. And Yetunde, she was around more than ever. Tobena asked me to help him with some administrative work, she explained when Kainene questioned why she was always at their new house. You're so busy with the restaurant, someone has to help him manage things. Kainene wanted to protest, but she was busy. Mama's Pot was expanding, she'd opened a second location and was catering events. She was making money now too, good money. She convinced herself that everything was fine. They were both just busy, building, growing. But late at night, when Tobena came home smelling like perfume that wasn't hers, when she reached for him and he turned away claiming exhaustion, when she saw Yetunde's earring on the floor of his car, she knew. She knew. She just didn't want to believe it until she couldn't deny it anymore. It was a Tuesday evening. Kainene had been feeling sick all week, nauseous, tired, emotional. She took a pregnancy test. Positive. Joy exploded in her chest. After 4 years of marriage, finally, a baby, their baby. Maybe this would bring Tobena back to her. Maybe this would remind him of what they built together. She bought his favorite meal from a fancy restaurant. No more pepper soup, she'd learned that lesson. She wore a new dress, did her makeup, lit candles in their bedroom. When he came home, she was glowing. Tobena, I have news. He barely looked at her, loosening his tie. Can it wait? I'm tired. No, baby, it can't. Wait. She took his hands, placed them on her still flat stomach. We're having a baby. For a moment, just a moment, she saw something flicker in his eyes. Surprise. Maybe even happiness. Then it died. Oh, he said flatly, pulling his hands away. Okay? Okay? Her smile faltered. That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say, Kainene? Congratulations? Fine. Congratulations. He walked past her towards the bedroom. Something broke inside her. Tobena, what is happening to us? Ever since you got this contract, you've been different. You don't talk to me anymore. You barely look at me. We're supposed to be celebrating. Celebrating what? He spun around, and the coldness in his eyes froze her blood. A baby I didn't plan for. With a woman I've outgrown? The words hit her like a slap. Outgrown? She whispered. Look at yourself, Kainene. You still dress like a market woman. You still talk like someone from the village. I'm moving in different circles now. Executives, politicians, people with class. And you? You're just not it anymore. Tears blurred her vision. I'm the one who gave you those contacts. I'm the one who sold my mother's gold so you could start this business. Everything you have, I helped you build, and I'm grateful, he said like he was speaking to a child. But gratitude doesn't mean I have to stay stuck with you forever. People grow, Kainene. I've grown? You haven't. Before she could respond, the door opened. Yetunde walked in, wearing one of Kainene's dresses, the red one she'd been looking for last week. Her belly was round, unmistakable, pregnant. 6 months at least. Kainene's world tilted. Yetunde, her voice cracked. What? How? I'm sorry, Kai, Yetunde said, but she didn't sound sorry. She sounded victorious. We didn't mean for it to happen. It just did. You said you couldn't have children. Kainene's voice was rising, hysteria creeping in. After you lost your baby, you said the doctors told you I lied. Yetunde shrugged. I knew you'd let me stay close if you pitied me, and staying close gave me access to what I wanted, which was my husband, which was a better life. Yetunde walked to Tobena, linked her arm through his. You're a good woman, Kainene, but good women finish last. I learned that a long time ago. Kainene looked at Tobena, desperate. You're going to let her talk to me like this? In our home? Tobena, I'm carrying your child. So is she, he said simply. And unlike you, Yetunde understands the life I'm trying to build. She's elegant, sophisticated. She knows how to talk to the right people, how to dress for galas, how to be the kind of wife a successful man needs. The room spun. Get out, Tobena said. Kainene laughed, a broken hysterical sound. Get out. This is my house. I helped pay for this house. Actually, Yetunde said sweetly, check the papers. The house is in Tobena's name, just his name. Oops! Tobena pulled a folder from his briefcase, the divorce papers she'd seen in the opening. Sign the papers, Kainene, and that's where we began. Kainene didn't sign that night. She couldn't. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Her mind couldn't process what was happening. This was a nightmare. It had to be. Any moment now she'd wake up in their old apartment in Ugbuwange, Tobena would be beside her, and Yetunde would call like she did every Sunday, talking about random nonsense while Kainene cooked. But when Tobena grabbed her arm, hard enough to bruise, and dragged her to the door, reality crashed through the delusion. I gave you a chance to live with dignity, he hissed. You're choosing the hard way? Fine. He threw her out, literally threw her into the compound at 11 p.m., tossed a suitcase after her, one suitcase for 4 years of marriage, and locked the gate. Kainene sat on the ground in her candlelit dinner dress, surrounded by neighbors' stares and whispers, and screamed until her throat bled. No one helped her. This was worry. People minded their business. Besides, everyone knew Tobena now. He was a big man. Who was going to fight a big man for his wife? Wives were replaceable, especially wives who couldn't keep their husbands happy. Kainene called her mother. No answer. It was late. Mama slept early. She called her sister. Kainene, I can't get involved in your marriage. Settle with your husband. She called the one friend she thought she still had. The woman laughed. I heard he upgraded. What did you expect? Dressing like a maid while he's rubbing shoulders with millionaires. At 3 a.m., a taxi driver took pity on her. He drove her to a cheap hotel in Eforon. The room smelled like mold and regret. The sheets were stained. The mirror on the wall was cracked. Kainene looked at her reflection in that cracked mirror and didn't recognize herself. When did she become this? A woman begging to be loved. A woman thrown away like trash. The cramping started at dawn. At first she thought it was stress. Then she felt the warmth between her legs. When she looked down and saw blood. So much blood she knew. The baby. She was losing the baby. Kainene crawled to the bathroom, collapsed on the cold tiles, and miscarried alone in a hotel that charged by the hour. She bled and cried and prayed and screamed at God until her voice gave out. When it was over, she lay there empty. Not just physically, spiritually, emotionally. Everything was gone. Her husband, her best friend, her home, her baby. What was left? For 3 days, Kainene stayed in that hotel room. She didn't eat, barely drank water, just stared at the ceiling and wished she could disappear. On the 4th day, someone knocked. Housekeeping. Kainene didn't answer. The knocking persisted. Madam, I know you're in there. Please open up. I'm not here to trouble you. Finally, Kainene dragged herself to the door. The woman standing there wasn't housekeeping. She was dressed too well, tailored suit, expensive jewelry, the kind of woman who looked like money. Kainene Nwosu? The woman asked gently. Who's asking? My name is Chief Mrs. Adora Okoli. I've been looking for you. Kainene frowned. I don't know you. No, but I know you. 5 years ago, my driver had an accident near your pepper soup joint. You took him to the hospital, paid his bills even though you didn't know him, visited him every day until he recovered. Do you remember? Vaguely. Kainene had helped a lot of people back then. It was just who she was. He was my late husband's driver, Chief Mrs. Adora continued. When he told me what you did, I never forgot. I tried to find you to thank you, but by the time I got your contact, you'd moved. Then last week I heard what happened. Your husband, your friend, the baby. Her voice softened. I'm sorry, my dear. I'm so sorry. Kainene's eyes filled with tears. A stranger was showing her more compassion than anyone she actually knew. Why are you here? Kainene whispered. Because women like us don't let women like you stay down. Chief Adara handed her a card. I own a hospitality business. Hotels, restaurants, event centers. I need someone I can trust. someone with your work ethic, your heart. Come work for me. I'll pay you well, give you accommodation, and teach you everything I know about business. I can't. Kainene shook her head. I'm broken. I can't even think straight. Then don't think. Just trust me. Chief Adara's eyes were fierce. Kainene, I've lived long enough to know that the women who get thrown into the fire don't burn. They become steel. Let me help you. Become steel. Kainene looked at this stranger, offering her a lifeline, and made a choice. She took the card. Patri. The transformation. Chief Mrs. Adara Okoli didn't just give Kainene a job, she gave her an education. For the first month, Kainene worked as Chief's personal chef, cooking for business dinners, corporate events, private parties. It was familiar work, comforting, but Chief had bigger plans. Cooking is a skill, Chief told her one evening, but business is power, and power is what you need if you never want to be helpless again. She started teaching Kainene everything: how to read contracts, how to negotiate with suppliers, how to identify market opportunities, how to build networks, how to walk into a room full of men and make them respect you. In this country, money is power, Chief said. Not beauty, not marriage. Money. And respect follows money like a shadow. You want to make sure no one can ever throw you away again? Become the woman who can't be replaced. Kainene absorbed everything like a woman dying of thirst finally finding water. She learned about import-export businesses, about real estate, about the hospitality industry. She attended Chief's business meetings, taking notes, watching how the older woman commanded respect from men twice her size. At night, alone in the small but comfortable quarters Chief provided, Kainene would lie awake thinking about Tobena and Yetund, wondering if they ever thought about her, if they felt even a shred of guilt. Probably not. She'd heard through the grapevine that they'd gotten married, a lavish wedding that was the talk of Wari. Yetunde had given birth to a baby boy. Tobena's business was booming. They looked happy in the photos people sent her out of cruelty disguised as concern. Good for them, Kainene thought bitterly. But then Chief Adara said something that changed her perspective. Stop watching them, Chief advised. I know it's tempting. I know you want to see if they are suffering yet. But every minute you spend focused on them is a minute you're not building yourself. Let them have their moment. Your time is coming. So Kainene stopped looking back. She focused forward. 6 months into working for Chief, Kainene proposed an idea. What if we started a meal prep service? Professional people don't have time to cook, but they want home-cooked meals. We could prepare weekly meal plans, deliver them to offices and homes. Chief smiled. I was wondering when you'd start thinking like an entrepreneur. Do it. I'll fund it. But you're running it completely. This is your business. Kainene launched Kai's Kitchen, a meal prep and delivery service targeting busy professionals in Wari and surrounding areas. She started small, just 10 clients, but her food was excellent. Her service was impeccable, and word spread fast. Within 3 months, she had 50 clients. Within 6 months, one direct 120. Within a year, she had corporate contracts with 3 oil companies. The money started coming in, real money. Kainene didn't waste it. She saved, invested, bought Chief Adara's advice with both hands and followed it religiously. Diversify, Chief said. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. So Kainene invested in real estate, buying small plots of land in developing areas. She bought shares in Chief's hotel business. She started learning about the import business, bringing in food items, kitchen equipment, packaging materials. 2 years after being thrown out, Kainene was making more money than she ever had with Tobena, but she kept it quiet. No flashy lifestyle, no social media posts, no bragging. She moved like a shadow, building an empire in silence, while the world thought she'd disappeared in shame. And then, 3 years after the betrayal, something happened that changed everything. Chief Adara's nephew came to visit from Lagos. Chukwuemeka Okoli was nothing like Tobena. Where Tobena was loud and flashy, Chukwuemeka was quiet and deliberate. Where Tobena needed constant validation, Chukwuemeka was confident in his own skin. He was a corporate lawyer, brilliant, successful, but more importantly, kind. He noticed Kainene immediately. Not because she was trying to be noticed, she wasn't. She was in Chief's kitchen preparing dinner for a business meeting, hair tied back, no makeup, completely in her element. "Who is she?" Chukwuemeka asked his aunt. Chief smiled knowingly. "Someone too good for you." But Chukwuemeka was patient. He started finding excuses to be wherever Kainene was, asking her opinion on things, making her laugh with dry humor, treating her like she was valuable, not because of what she could do for him, but because of who she was. Kainene resisted at first. How could she not? The last man she trusted destroyed her. But Chukwuemeka was relentless in his gentleness. "I'm not asking you to marry me," he said one evening after she'd rejected his dinner invitation for the third time. "I'm asking you to eat jollof rice and talk to me for 1 hour. If you hate it, I'll never ask again." She went. That one dinner turned into 2, then 5, then every weekend. Chukwuemeka never pushed, never demanded, just showed up consistently, treating her with respect, asking about her business, celebrating her wins, listening to her ideas. 6 months later, when he finally said, "Kainene, I'm falling in love with you," she realized she'd already fallen too. But she was honest with him. She told him everything. Tobena, Yetunde, the betrayal, the miscarriage, the shame, the pain. Chukwuemeka listened without judgment. When she finished, he took her hands. "I'm sorry you went through that, but I need you to know something. What he did doesn't define your worth. His inability to see your value doesn't decrease it. If anything, it proved he was never worthy of you in the first place." "But what if I'm damaged?" Kainene whispered. "What if I can't trust again? What if you're not damaged? You're experienced. There's a difference. And Kainene, I'm not him. I'm not here to take from you. I'm here to build with you." They got married a year later. Not a flashy wedding, intimate, meaningful. Just family and close friends at Chief Adaura's estate. And when Kainene signed her marriage certificate this time, she made sure her lawyer, her husband, ensured that every business, every asset, every investment was in bold their names. She wasn't naive anymore. She'd learned. 5 years after Tobena threw her out, Kainene stood in the lobby of her newest acquisition, a 4-star hotel in the heart of Warri's GRA. Kai Empire was no longer just a meal prep service. It was a conglomerate. 3 restaurant chains across Delta State, a catering company that handled A-list events, a real estate development firm, import-export businesses, a boutique hotel, and she was in talks to open a second hotel in Asaba. She employed over 200 people. Her annual revenue was in the hundreds of millions. Business magazines interviewed her. She spoke at conferences. Universities invited her to talk to students about entrepreneurship. Kainene Okafor Okoli had become exactly what Chief Adaora predicted. Still, she'd also become a mother. Twin boys, Chidi and Kosisochukwu, were now 3 years old, brilliant, loud, full of joy. Chukwuemeka was the father Tobena could never be. Present, involved, proud. Life was good. No, life was excellent. But Kainene hadn't forgotten where she came from. Every morning when she looked in the mirror, she still saw that woman bleeding on a hotel bathroom floor, that woman thrown out at midnight, that woman who lost everything she remembered, and remembering kept her sharp. What she didn't know was that Karma was remembering too. It started with whispers. Kainene's staff, many of whom came from Warri and the surrounding areas, would occasionally mention seeing Tobena. "Madam, I think I saw your ex-husband at the filling station yesterday," her driver mentioned casually one morning. He was driving an old Camry, looked rough. Kainene said nothing. She trained herself not to react to mentions of Tobena or Yetunde. But she listened. The whispers increased. "I heard his business collapsed. Someone said he lost a major contract and couldn't recover. They're not living in GRA anymore." Kainene didn't investigate. She was too busy building. But Chief Adara, who had her finger on the pulse of every business movement in Delta State, eventually told her the full story. Tobena Okafor Supply Company went bankrupt 2 years ago, Chief said over tea one afternoon. Bad management, terrible investments, got into debt with the wrong people. He's been struggling ever since. And Yetunde? Chief's expression darkened. 3 children now. Tobena treats her poorly from what I hear. Drinks heavily, blames her for his bad luck, says she's a curse. Kainene sipped her tea, feeling nothing. No satisfaction, no pity, just nothing. Karma doesn't need my help, she said simply. But karma wasn't done yet. Karma was just getting started. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday. The Delta State Chamber of Commerce was hosting its annual business gala, a massive event where politicians, business owners, and society elites gathered to network, show off, and celebrate the year's most successful entrepreneurs. Kainene had been invited to receive the Entrepreneur of the Year award. You have to attend, Chukwemeka insisted, kissing her forehead. This is huge, baby. They're recognizing you. Kainene hesitated. She hated crowds, hated attention, preferred to build her empire quietly. But Chief Adara called her personally. Kainene, this isn't just about you. This is about every woman who's been told she's not enough. Every woman who's been discarded. Show them what you became. Accept that award with your head high. So she agreed. The gala was at the Presidential Hotel, one of the fanciest venues in Warri. Kainene arrived in a floor-length emerald gown that hugged her curves like it was designed specifically for her body, because it was. Custom-made, hair styled in elegant cornrows that cascaded down her back, diamond jewelry that Chief Adara had lent her. Chukwumeka beside her in a sharp tuxedo, looking at her like she was the only woman in the world. When they walked into the ballroom, conversation stopped. People stared. Kainene Okafor Okoli had arrived, and she looked like money, power and vindication wrapped in emerald silk. She didn't notice Tobena and Yetunde in the corner, but they noticed her. Tobena almost choked on his drink. Is that Kainene? He whispered to Yetunde. Yetunde's face had gone pale. It can't be. That woman looks like money, Tobena finished bitterly. They'd only been invited to the gala because Tobena's cousin worked for one of the organizing companies. They didn't belong here anymore. Tobena was wearing a suit he'd bought 3 years ago, now tight around his bare belly. Yetunde's dress was from a market stall, and she'd done her own makeup poorly. They looked exactly like what they were, people pretending to be something they weren't anymore. But Kainene looked like she owned the room, and when the MC announced her name, this year's Entrepreneur of the Year award goes to Mrs. Kainene Okafor Okoli, CEO of KI Empire. The applause was deafening. Kainene walked to the stage with her head high, her smile serene. She accepted the plaque, stood at the microphone, and the room fell silent. Thank you, she began, her voice steady. This award means more to me than you know. You see, 8 years ago, I was a woman with nothing. I'd lost my home, my marriage, my dignity. I'd even lost a child. Gasps rippled through the crowd. This wasn't the typical acceptance speech. I was told I wasn't good enough, that I was too local, too simple, too forgettable. I was thrown away like garbage by people I trusted with my whole heart. In the corner, Tobena's face was burning. Yetunde looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. But here's what I learned. When people discard you, they're not seeing your worth. They're revealing their own blindness. And sometimes the greatest gift someone can give you is letting you go. Because in my case, being thrown away forced me to discover who I really was. The applause started building. I built this empire from nothing. No, that's not true. I built it from pain, from heartbreak, from determination, from the refusal to let someone else's limited vision define my destiny. And I'm standing here today to tell every woman listening, your value is not determined by who stays. It's determined by who you become after they leave. Standing ovation. People were crying. Women especially. They felt every word. Kainene looked directly at Tobena and Yetunde for the first time. Her smile didn't waver. To everyone who doubted me, who counted me out, who laughed at my pain, thank you. You made me stronger than I ever would have been if you'd stayed. She raised her award. This is for the women who rebuild, who rise, who refuse to stay broken. We don't get mad, we get everything. The room exploded in applause. Kainene walked off stage into her husband's arms. Chukwemeka kissed her deeply, proudly, right there in front of everyone. The cameras flashed. The story would be everywhere by morning, and in the corner Tobena and Yetunde stood frozen, watching the woman they destroyed become the woman they could never touch again. The gala ended late. Kainene was surrounded by well-wishers, business people wanting to connect, women thanking her for her speech. She was exhausted but exhilarated. As they headed toward the exit, someone stepped into their path. Yetunde! She looked terrible up close, aged beyond her years, eyes puffy from crying, makeup smeared. Kainene, please, can we talk? Chukwemeka immediately stepped forward, protective. My wife has nothing to say to you. Please, Yetunde begged, tears streaming down her face. Just 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. Kainene studied the woman who used to be her best friend, saw the defeat in her eyes, the desperation. It's okay, Kainene told her husband softly. Give us a moment. Chukwemeka looked skeptical but stepped aside, staying close enough to intervene if needed. Kainene and Yetunde stood facing each other in the hotel corridor, 8 years of silence between them. You look amazing, Yetunde started. I saw your speech. I saw everything you've become. Kainene, What do you want, Yetunde? Yetunde flinched at the coldness in Kainene's voice. I want to apologize for everything, for what I did to you, for the affair, for the lies, for... You want to apologize? Kainene's laugh was sharp. Now? After 8 years? After destroying my marriage? Sleeping with my husband? Celebrating while I bled out a miscarriage alone in a hotel bathroom? Now you want to apologize? I was wrong, Yetunde sobbed. I was jealous and stupid and selfish. You had everything. A good husband, a business, hope, and I had nothing. I thought if I took what was yours, I'd finally be happy. But Kainene, I've been miserable. Every single day. Tobena treats me like dirt. He blames me for everything wrong in his life. He drinks, he yells, sometimes he... She touched her arm unconsciously, and Kainene saw the fading bruise. For a moment, just a moment, Kainene felt pity. Then she remembered the woman she used to be. The woman begging while Yetunde laughed. You got exactly what you wanted. Kainene said quietly. You took my husband. You got the big wedding, the house, the life. That's what you fought for. So enjoy it. There's nothing to enjoy, Yetunde cried. We're broke, Kainene. The business failed. We lost everything. We can't even afford the children's school fees. I work as a cleaner now. Did you know that? I clean houses, toilets. I scrub floors for people who wouldn't have looked at me twice when I was with Tobena. And you think I care? Kainene's voice was ice. You think because you're suffering now, I'm supposed to forget what you did? Yetunde, you didn't just betray me. You laughed while doing it. You called me local, told me I wasn't good enough, watched me beg and felt nothing. I know, and I'm sorry. But Kainene, my children are suffering. They didn't ask for this. Please, I'm not asking for me. I'm asking for them. Just help with their school fees, a small loan, anything. Kainene stared at her. This was the moment she'd imagined 1,000 times in her darkest hours. The moment a betrayer came crawling back, she thought it would feel sweet. It didn't. It felt empty. I'm going to tell you something, Yetunde, and I need you to really hear me. When you and Tobena threw me out, I had nothing. No money, no home, no support. I was pregnant and alone, and I begged for help. Nobody came. Not you. Not him. Nobody. I learned that day that the only person I could count on was myself. Yetunde was shaking. Please, I'm not finished. I rebuilt my entire life from ashes. Every brick of my empire was laid with my own hands. Nobody gave me anything. And now you're here, asking me to give you what you never gave me? Mercy? Second chances? Kainene, I was wrong. I admit it, but people make mistakes. Please, you're a Christian. Don't you dare use God to manipulate me. Kainene's voice was sharp. You made a choice. Choices have consequences. I don't owe you anything, Yetunde. Not forgiveness, not money, not mercy. Yetunde collapsed onto a nearby chair, sobbing. Then what do I do? How do I fix this? The same way I did, Kainene said flatly. You figure it out, you struggle, you hustle, you rebuild, or you don't. That's your choice. But it's not my problem anymore. She turned to walk away, then stopped. Actually, there is one thing I'll do for your children. Yetunde's head snapped up, hopeful. I'll set up a trust fund for their education. But the money goes directly to their schools. Not to you, not to Tobena. And there are conditions. They maintain good grades, good behavior, and stay far away from whatever toxic environment you and Tobena have created. Kainene, thank you. I'm not doing it for you, Kainene cut her off. I'm doing it because those children didn't betray me. They're innocent. But you? Yetunde, you and I are done. We will never be friends again. We will never be anything. The only reason I'm even standing here talking to you is because once upon a time, I was a woman who believed in loyalty and friendship, in giving people the benefit of the doubt. You killed that woman, but she left behind someone stronger, someone who knows exactly what she's worth. Kainene walked away. Behind her, Yetunde sobbed into her hands, broken and alone. Chukwuemeka wrapped his arm around his wife. You okay? I'm perfect, Kainene said, and meant it. 3 days after the gala, Kainene was in her office reviewing expansion plans when her secretary buzzed in. Ma, there's someone here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says it's urgent. His name is Tobena Okafor. Kainene's pen paused over her paperwork. Tobena. She could turn him away? Honestly, she should. But curiosity was a powerful thing. Send him in. The man who walked into her office barely resembled the man who'd thrown her out 8 years ago. Tobena had aged badly. His face was bloated from alcohol. His clothes were wrinkled, cheap. He'd gained weight, lost hair, and his eyes carried the haunted look of a man who'd gambled everything and lost. Kainene. He tried to smile. It came out sad, desperate. Wow, you look incredible. What do you want, Tobena? No small talk, no pleasantries, just straight to business. He shifted uncomfortably. I heard about your success. Saw you at the gala. I wanted to congratulate you. You came here to congratulate me. And to apologize? He stepped forward. Kainene didn't move. What I did to you was wrong. I know that now. I was blinded by ambition, by greed. I thought I needed someone different to match my success, but Kainene, I was wrong. Everything fell apart without you. The business, my life, everything. You were my good luck charm and I threw you away. Kainene leaned back in her leather chair, studying him like he was an insect. So let me make sure I understand this correctly. When you were succeeding, I was too local, too simple, not good enough. But now that you've failed, suddenly I was your good luck charm? That's fascinating logic. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Tobena? Are you here to apologize? Or are you here because you need something? His jaw tightened. Both. Kainene, I need help. Alone. Just to get back on my feet. I know I don't deserve it, but you're right. You don't deserve it. So why are you here? Because I'm desperate. The words exploded out of him. I'm broke, Kainene, completely broke. I owe dangerous people money. If I don't pay them back, they'll hurt my family. Please, I'm begging you, for old times' sake. We were married once. That has to count for something. Kainene stood, walked to her floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city. When she spoke, her voice was calm, measured. You want to talk about our marriage? Fine. Let's talk about it. You married me when I had nothing. I worked 16-hour days to support your dreams. I gave you my father's contacts that launched your entire business. I sold my mother's inheritance to fund your first contract. I believed in you when nobody else did. And what did you do? She turned to face him, and her eyes were fire. You used me. You built your success on my sacrifice, then threw me away the second you didn't need me anymore. You humiliated me publicly. You impregnated my best friend while I was loyal to you. And when I came to you, carrying your child, our child, you called me worthless and kicked me out into the street. I was young and stupid. You were cruel. There's a difference. And here's what I learned, Tobena. Cruel people don't change just because they're losing. They stay cruel. They just become desperate too. So you won't help me? His voice cracked. After everything we meant to each other? We didn't mean anything to each other. I meant something to you. I was useful. The moment I stopped being useful, you discarded me. Now you're the one who's not useful anymore. How does it feel? Tobena's face twisted with rage. You've become so cold, Kainene, so heartless. Where's the woman I married? The kind, generous woman who helped everyone. You killed her, Kainene said simply. The night you threw her into the street pregnant, that woman died. What's standing in front of you now is what rose from her ashes. And unlike her, I don't help people who hurt me. I watch them face the consequences of their choices. My children will suffer because of your pride. No, Tobena. Your children will suffer because of your choices. You chose to betray loyalty. You chose to abandon the woman who built you. You chose greed over gratitude, and now you're reaping exactly what you sowed. That's not pride. That's karma. She pressed the button on her desk. Security, please escort Mr. Okafor out of the building and make sure he doesn't return. 2 security guards entered immediately. Kainene, please, Tobena begged as they grabbed his arms. I made a mistake. Don't do this. You're right. You did make a mistake. 8 years ago. And I'm not doing anything to you, Tobena. I'm simply refusing to save you from yourself. As they dragged him out, he was screaming, You are nothing without me. I made you. Everything you have, I gave you the foundation. Kainene's laugh followed him down the hallway. You gave me a foundation? Tobena, the only thing you gave me was a master class in never depending on a man for my worth. Thank you for that lesson. It was expensive, but worth every tear. The door closed. Silence filled the office. Kainene sat back down at her desk, picked up a pen, and continued reviewing her expansion plans. Her hands didn't shake. Her heart didn't race. She felt nothing. And that was the sweetest revenge of all. Not needing revenge because she'd already won. But before I tell you what happened next, pause for just a second. If you're still watching, drop a comment right now and tell me where you're watching from. USA, UK, Canada, Ghana. I want to see how far this story is reaching. And while you're at it, if you think Kainene should show them mercy or make them suffer, type mercy or suffer in the comments. I need to know what team you're on. Don't forget to like this video if karma is giving you life right now, and subscribe because trust me, you don't want to miss how this ends. Hit that notification bell so you catch every story we drop. Now back to Kainene, because what she's about to discover, it changes everything. That evening, Kainene told Chukwuemeka about Tobena's visit. Her husband listened quietly, then said something that made her blood run cold. Kainene, I need to show you something. I've been waiting for the right time, but after what happened today, I think you need to see this now. He pulled out a folder from his briefcase. Inside were documents, legal papers, contracts, agreements from 8 years ago. What is this? Kainene asked. When you told me your story about how you helped Tobena start his business using your father's contacts, something bothered me. So I did some digging, called in some favors from colleagues in corporate law. He spread the documents across their dining table. Kainene, do you remember the initial partnership documents Tobena had you sign when he was registering his business? She frowned. Vaguely, he said they were just formalities. I trusted him, so I signed. You trusted him, and he betrayed that trust in ways you don't even know yet. Chukwuemeka pointed to a specific document. This is the original business registration for Tobena's supply company. See this section here. The one that lists you as a silent partner with a 40% stake in the business? Kainene's eyes widened. What? Your father was brilliant. He knew the business world. Before he gave Tobena those contacts, he insisted that you be legally protected. The contracts explicitly stated that since the connections and initial funding came through you, you owned 40% of the company. Tobena agreed, probably thinking he'd just push you out later. But he threw me out. He kept everything because he committed fraud. Chukwemeka's voice was hard. 6 months after the business started, Tobena filed paperwork removing you as a partner. He forged your signature on documents claiming you'd willingly given up your stake. That's document forgery and partnership fraud. Criminal offenses. Kainene couldn't breathe. So legally, you still own 40% of a business that generated millions before it collapsed. And all the assets he acquired during that time, the houses, the cars, the investments, you're entitled to your share. But the business failed. He has nothing now. Oh, he has more than nothing. Chukwemeka smiled grimly. He's deep in debt, which means when we sue him for fraud and claim your rightful ownership, we can force the liquidation of everything he still has hidden. And Kainene, there's more. He pulled out another document. Remember how he threw you out of that house? The one you thought was his? I checked the property records. That house was purchased using a down payment that came from selling your mother's gold. Legally, you're entitled to a claim on that property too. Kainene sat down heavily. Are you telling me that everything he took from me, I can take back legally? Not just can. You're entitled to it by law. He stole from you, Kainene, and there's a statute of limitations, but we're still within it. If we file now. And the consequences for him? Document forgery is a criminal offense. He could face up to 7 years in prison. Plus, he'd have to pay back everything he owes you with interest. We're talking hundreds of millions of naira. Kainene looked at her husband. Why are you telling me this now? Because I wanted you to heal first. If I'd shown you this when we first met, you would have pursued it out of pain, out of revenge. But now you're healed. Now you're successful on your own. Now you can make this decision from a position of power, not desperation. So I'm asking you, what do you want to do? Kainene stared at the documents. 8 years ago, she would have hesitated, would have worried about looking petty, about stooping to his level. But 8 years ago, she was a different woman. Filed the lawsuit, she said quietly. All of it. The fraud charges, the property claims, everything. Are you sure? She looked up at her husband, and her eyes were clear. Chukwemeka, this isn't revenge. This is justice. He stole from me. He forged documents. He broke the law. And the only reason he got away with it is because I was too broken to fight back. But I'm not broken anymore. File it. It's going to get ugly. It'll be public. The media will cover it. Good. Let it be public. Let everyone see what happens when you betray the woman who built you. File it. Chukwemeka kissed her forehead. I was hoping you'd say that. I'll have the papers ready by Monday. The lawsuit hit Worry like a bomb. Business mogul sues ex-husband for fraud, claims he built empire on her sacrifice. The headlines were everywhere. Social media exploded. Everyone had an opinion. Some people supported Kainene. She deserves everything. He used her and threw her away. Others were critical. She's already successful. Why go after a man who's already down? It's wickedness. Kainene didn't respond to any of it. She let the lawyers do their work. The evidence was overwhelming. Her father's documented letters, the original partnership agreements, expert testimony from forensic accountants showing the forged signatures, bank records proving the source of funds. Tobena tried to fight it, hired a cheap lawyer who was outmatched from day one, tried to paint Kainene as a vindictive ex-wife seeking revenge, but Chukwemeka demolished every argument. This isn't about a marriage, he told the court. This is about theft. My client's father arranged business connections worth millions. My client sold her family heirlooms to fund this man's startup. She was legally entitled to 40% partnership. The defendant fraudulently removed her from ownership and kept 100% of profits. This is a straightforward case of partnership fraud and document forgery. The trial lasted 3 months. Every day the courtroom was packed. Journalists, curious onlookers, women who saw themselves in Kainene's story. And every day Kainene sat in the front row, immaculate in designer suits, calm and composed, while Tobena looked more desperate, more broken. Yetunde attended once, sat in the back, cried quietly through the proceedings, never came back. When the verdict came, it was swift and brutal. Guilty on all counts of partnership fraud and document forgery. The judge's ruling was comprehensive. Criminal sentence to Bernard Okafor was sentenced to 7 years in prison for document forgery and fraud. Financial restitution. He was ordered to pay Kainene 450 million naira, her rightful 40% share of all business profits from the past 8 years, plus interest. Asset seizure. All remaining assets, the house, vehicles, business equipment, were to be liquidated to pay the debt. Public record. The case would remain on public record, permanently damaging his business reputation. When the judge's gavel fell, Tobena collapsed in the defendant's chair. Kainene stood, collected her purse, and walked out of the courtroom without looking back. Outside, reporters swarmed. "Mrs. Okafor Okoli, how do you feel about the verdict?" She paused, looked directly into the cameras. "Justice delayed is not justice denied. It just takes longer. To every woman watching this, your betrayer's day of reckoning is coming. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it's coming. Build yourself in the meantime, because the best revenge isn't revenge. It's becoming so successful that their downfall is just a footnote in your story." The clip went viral. Within 48 hours, it had 10 million views. Kainene became an icon, not just a businesswoman, a symbol, the woman who turned betrayal into an empire and made her oppressor pay for every tear she shed. The house Tobena and Yetunde lived in was seized within a week. They were evicted, their belongings sold at auction to pay Kainene's judgment. They moved into a small 2-room apartment in a poor area of Warri, exactly the kind of place Kainene and Tobena had lived when they were struggling. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Yetunde took a job as a cleaner in one of Kainene's restaurant chains, not because Kainene arranged it, but because it was one of the few places hiring. She didn't know it was Kainene's company when she applied. She found out on her third day when Kainene came for a surprise inspection. Their eyes met across the dining room. Yetunde was in a cleaning uniform, bucket and mop in hand, hair covered, looking exhausted. Kainene was in a tailored pantsuit, discussing expansion plans with her manager. Neither woman spoke. Kainene simply looked at her once, not with anger, not with pity, just with the cool assessment of an employer evaluating a worker, then continued her meeting. Yetunde burst into tears in the bathroom 20 minutes later. She quit the next day. As for Tobena, prison was hard. Harder than he imagined. He shared a cell with men who had nothing to lose, who didn't care that he used to be somebody. He aged rapidly, lost more weight, developed health problems from stress. His children barely visited. They were ashamed of him, angry at him for destroying their lives. His oldest daughter, now 16, wrote him one letter, just one. "Auntie Kainene set up a trust fund for our education. We're going to good schools now. We have food, clothes, hope. She gave us what you and Mom couldn't. She gave us a future. I don't know if I'll ever forgive you for what you did to her, but I'm grateful she's a better person than you ever were." Tobena wept when he read it, not because he felt genuine remorse. He wasn't capable of that, but because he finally understood what he'd lost. Not just money, not just business. He'd lost respect, legacy, the possibility of his children looking at him with pride instead of shame. He'd lost everything that actually mattered, and he'd lost it chasing things that didn't. 2 years after the trial, Kainene opened a second hotel, this time in Azaba. It was massive, luxurious, a landmark project that cemented her status as one of the most successful entrepreneurs in Delta State. The grand opening was attended by governors, business moguls, celebrities. Chief Mrs. Adara was there, beaming with pride. "I told you that you were still." Chukwuemeka was there with their sons, now 5 years old, running around in tiny suits, excited to see their mother cut the ribbon. And sitting in the audience, invited specifically by Kainene, was Yetunde's oldest daughter, Adaora. Yes, the girl had taken Chief's name. When Kainene set up the trust fund, she'd also arranged for Chief Adaora to become the girl's legal guardian. Adaora was thriving, top of her class, confident, brilliant. When Kainene finished her speech, Adaora ran up and hugged her. "Thank you, Auntie, for everything. You're going to do great things," Kainene whispered. "Never forget where you came from, but never let it define where you're going." Later that evening, after the crowds had gone, Kainene stood alone on the hotel balcony overlooking the Niger River. Chukwuemeka found her there. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her waist. "About that woman in the hotel room. The one bleeding on the bathroom floor, the one who wanted to die. She's gone." "No?" Kainene turned to face him. "She's not gone. She's right here. She's just stronger now, wiser. I don't regret what she went through because she became me, and I love who I am. So do I." He kissed her. "Are you happy? Truly?" Kainene looked out at the city lights, at the empire she built, at the life she created from ashes. "I'm more than happy," she said. "I'm free. I'm powerful. I'm exactly who I was always meant to be. Tobena and Yetunde didn't break me. They broke the cage I didn't even know I was in." "Do you ever think about them?" "Sometimes, but not with anger anymore. Not even with satisfaction, just with gratitude." "Gratitude?" "They taught me that loyalty to the wrong people is just betrayal to yourself. They taught me that my value isn't determined by who stays, but by who I become after they leave. And they taught me that sometimes the people who hurt you the most are actually doing you the biggest favor. They're getting out of the way of your destiny." She smiled. Tobena wanted a woman who matched his level. He got her, and his level was always lower than mine. I just didn't know it until he forced me to rise. 10 years later, 10 years after being thrown out, Kainene stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for her fifth hotel, this one in Lagos, the crown jewel of Kai Empire. She was 43 now, more beautiful than ever in the way that success makes women beautiful, confident, glowing, powerful. Her sons were teenagers now, brilliant young men being groomed to one day take over the family business. Chukwuemeka was by her side, graying at the temples, but still looking at her like she hung the moon. Chief Mrs. Adaora had passed away 2 years earlier, but not before seeing Kainene become everything she predicted. Her last words to Kainene were, "You're not steel anymore, my daughter. You're diamond, unbreakable and priceless." As Kainene cut the ribbon, cameras flashed. The crowd applauded. She smiled for the photos, gave her speech, shook hands with dignitaries. But later, when everyone had gone, her assistant handed her an envelope. "This came for you today, Ma, from Kirikiri Maximum Prison." Kainene's heart didn't race. Her hands didn't shake. She opened it. It was from Tobena, his 9th year in prison. "Kainene, I know I have no right to write to you, no right to ask for your attention or your time, but I need you to know something. I'm dying. Liver cancer. The doctors say I have maybe 6 months. I'm not writing to ask for help. I know I don't deserve it. I'm writing to tell you what I should have said 10 years ago. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. And I was too stupid, too arrogant, too broken inside to see it. I took everything you gave me and threw it away. Worse, I threw you away. You built me up when I had nothing. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You sacrificed your family's treasures, your father's legacy, your own comfort, all for me. And what did I give you in return? Betrayal, humiliation, pain. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that every day in this cell, I think about who I could have been if I'd just loved you the way you deserved. If I'd just been grateful for what we had instead of chasing what I thought I needed. You won, Kainene, not just in business or in court. You won at life. You became extraordinary. And I became exactly what I deserved to become. Nothing. I'm proud of you. I know I have no right to be, but I am. Die well, Kainene. Live even better. Tobena. Kainene read the letter twice. Then she folded it carefully, placed it back in the envelope, and handed it to her assistant. File it, she said simply. Should I respond, ma? No. He said everything he needed to say, and I have nothing left to say to him. She walked to her car where Chukwemeka was waiting. Everything okay? He asked. Everything's perfect. And it was. Because Tobenna was wrong about one thing. She didn't win because he lost. She won because she refused to let his betrayal be the end of her story. She won because she turned pain into power, heartbreak into empire, betrayal into blessing. She won because while he was rotting in prison and dying with regret, she was living fully, loving deeply, building generously. That was the real karma, not his suffering, her thriving. As they drove through Lagos past billboards advertising KAI Empire hotels, restaurants, and real estate developments, Kainene thought about that woman on the hotel bathroom floor 10 years ago, the woman who thought she had nothing left to live for. If she could talk to that woman now, she'd say, "Get up, wipe your tears. The pain you feel today is building the woman you'll become tomorrow. They threw you away because they couldn't see your worth, but you're going to show the whole world what they were too blind to see. You're going to rise. And when you do, they'll realize they didn't discard trash. They discarded treasure. And by then, you'll be too valuable for them to ever touch again." Kainene smiled. She'd risen, and she was never coming down again. And that, my friends, is how Kainene Nwosu became the woman Tobena and Yetunde should have feared from the very beginning. Now tell me, do you think the karma was enough, or should it have been worse? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your soul, made you believe in justice again, or just gave you that satisfying feeling of watching betrayers get exactly what they deserve, share this video with someone who needs to see it. Tag that friend who's going through a betrayal right now and remind them your comeback is loading. Before you go, let me know. Where are you watching from? And have you ever experienced a betrayal that turned into your biggest blessing? Tell your story in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we have more stories of karma, justice, and women who refuse to stay broken. Hit that like button, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next story. Remember, the people who discard you today might be begging you tomorrow. Build your empire anyway.